right, and welcome back to the podcast. Boz, did you know this is our 10th movie that we've done on the
It
pod?
it has flown by. It's been awesome. It's been awesome. I can't believe we're still. I think 94% of all podcasts stop before podcast number 4. So we've made it. We've made it.
Killing it. And I think on that occasion, Boz, it'd be appropriate if you led us in a prayer, like a saying of thanks. Would you mind doing that?
Yeah, I'll do that. I couldn't be more honored. Dear Lord, baby Jesus, or as our brothers to the south call you, Jesus, I pray that we have a great show and we bless our brother Bob Beller who's joining us. Dear tiny infant Jesus with your golden fleece diaper, your tiny balled up hands, I pray that Bob Beller is prepared and he's ready to share with us what he's learned about this movie. Dear Lord, baby Jesus, maybe in a tuxedo t-shirt that says, I'm formal, but I like to party. Or maybe the lead singer of Leonard Skinner with wings and an angel band behind us. I pray that Bob Beller will learn to enjoy a steak that doesn't look like a hockey puck or maybe a rolled up leather belt. Dear 8-pound, 6-ounce newborn infant, don't even know a word yet, cuddly, but omnipotent. I pray last but not least that everyone will recognize the 2017 UCF Golden Knight football team as the national champions they are, and they can do something more than put that silly little sign on their silly little stadium down there in Orlando. Thank you, George. Thank you, Jesus. We pray this in your name.
Hey, amen. Hallelujah. That was fantastic. Bob, you have any comments off of that prayer? It was a lot of it was directed at you, particularly your choice in steak.
Yeah, I don't know where I got known for liking well done steaks. That's not the case. I like medium to medium well steaks, which is the perfect cooking for a steak. It is delicious.
Yes.
So I just like to set the record straight there.
We appreciate you setting the record straight. That is highly, highly debatable, but we'll get back to that and more. Boz, thank you for that prayer. It was very emotional. And if you haven't figured it out, we are doing Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby, just an absolute laugh-a-minute movie that was enjoyable to review. Now, Bob Beller, you are the last of my college roommates to be on here. We've had DJ Johnny G, we've had Dave Laddick, Bean, and now the house dad, Bob Beller. So why is it that you wanted to do Ricky Bobby?
Talladega Nights. One, I'm a racing fan. I used to be a big fan of NASCAR back when Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson and Tony Stewart were drivers. And the movie is just hysterical. I mean, it makes me laugh. I mean, I don't like to rewatch movies a lot, but every time I watch this one, it just makes me laugh. It's just a great movie.
It is hysterical. Boz, and we're going to have to go with the Boz and the Bob. We got two Bobs on here. Boz, tell a little bit, look, we had a blast rewatching it. Knew I liked it. It's almost a crime that it took us 10 movies to get to our guy, Will Ferrell, but this was really, really fun to watch. Why do we love it? Why is it in the Hall of Fame? Where do we have it ranked?
Yeah, as you know, we have a separate list. We have a list of just kind of movies and then comedies. Comedies are hard to put in. How do you compare this to Godfather or Usual Suspects? It's hard. So we have a list. We have it as the 7th best comedy of all time. And like you, rewatching it, I was shocked how much I was laughing. But when you try to rank comedies, it's difficult, right? I wouldn't call Vacation a sophisticated comedy, but it's a very different comedy than this, right? This is, the way I was describing it is that if an alien came down, right? If an alien came down, obviously they'd come to America and they'd speak English because of public schools, the health system. They would come to America for that. And they said, show me your funniest movie ever. And I showed them this movie. They'd be like, yep, makes sense. Like, this could be the funniest movie of all time. I don't think it is, but when you say that, you're like, really? Talladega Nights, funniest movie of all time. But when you're talking strictly about laughing out loud, which we'll talk about, I think we've got rid of that category for this movie because we would just reiterate the whole movie. But almost every single line producing a smile, a chuckle, a laugh. There are not many comedies, movies that rival this one. And it's Will Ferrell, who will fast forward into the, kind of some of the Hall of Fame categories, may be the funniest person in movie history.
Agreed. I think you nailed it on the head. It really is. Typically we watch these movies, we're taking notes, you're writing down quotes. I got tired of doing it 5 minutes into the movie because I was literally just rewriting everything that was said. There's not a throwaway line, a down moment for an hour and 45 minutes, which is rare. Even in some of our favorite comedies, typically there's kind of a down scene, maybe like a love interest portion of it that they got to go through, and it kind of leaves it off a little bit bad of a taste. But this one just rips through the whole time. There's no throwaway lines. The movie did incredibly well in the theater. It's released in August of 2006, makes $163 million. It's the fourth highest grossing Will Ferrell movie of all time, which kind of shocked me a little bit. Number one is Lego Movie, which he's just, he's animated. He's just kind of a voiceover there. Elf, which we've debated on this podcast before, one of the certainly Mount Rushmore Christmas movies of all time. And Anchorman 2, which is not as good as Anchorman, but all the hype and publicity that came around Anchorman led into that. So this one is number 4. Bob, when you think of Will Ferrell, when you think of Will Ferrell, what's kind of the first thing that comes to mind? And what are your favorite movies of his?
Oh man. When I think of him as, I forgot his character in Wedding Crashers. That is, what's his name? Chaz?
Yes.
Yeah, Chaz. I think if you say Snap Judgment, fast forward to Hall of Fame plaques, who is he in there for? I actually think of Chaz before Ron Burgundy. I don't know how, but I think probably his funniest movie is Anchorman. But when I think of him, because I think of Chaz, because he is so good in these. Oh my gosh, there's Will Ferrell. I mean, think of how many movies that he comes across like, oh, there's Will Ferrell. This is going to be amazing. So that's what I think of with Will Ferrell.
Hey, Bob Beller, let me give you this run of movies that Will Ferrell goes on. Tell me what you think. 2003, he goes old school, an Elf, same year. 04, Anchorman. 05, Wedding Crashers that Bob just talked about. 06, Ricky Bobby, and then 08, Step Brothers. Have you ever had a 5-year run quite like this?
I can't say that I have. No, that's amazing.
Bob,
I would have liked to have had a run like that. I have not.
Yeah, I mean, how long were you in college, Bob Beller? I mean, I think Mark was trying to set you up for maybe a funny anecdote, maybe some run of a spreadsheet that Bean came out where you were positive for the first time ever. Let me ask that again. Bob Beller, have you ever had a 5-year run like that?
I do pretty well on the poker, but, not really. I can't say that I've had a 5-year run like it.
No.
Bob Beller, was there a 5-year run of your kid's life that was maybe good? Hey, they did well in sports. They got good grades. We went on a nice vacation 5 years in a row. Let me ask it again. Have you ever had a 5-year run like that?
I mean, you have to look at the movies he came out with. I mean, they are... for me, some of the best movies that, I enjoy watching. So it's hard for me to compare against that run to these guys. So if you've got a 5-year run that you'd like to talk about, Boz,
I do.
None of us do. He's just putting you on the hot seat. It almost kind of begs the question, what happened to Will Ferrell? It's kind of what I thought of when I went back and looked at it. I mean, maybe he just got to the point where he just had too much money and really didn't need to keep going through this. But it really is an all-time heater. Speaking of heater, Sacha Baron Cohen, who's in this movie, before Borat, but Borat comes out later in November. This guy goes this in August. He gets Borat in November, and really just kind of goes to the stratosphere. Now, Boz has some opinions on kind of what he's better known for that we'll get into Hall of Fame plaques, but this really sets him off on an unbelievable trajectory. Some more about 2006, just kind of setting the stage. The big box office movies in 06, we got Pirates of the Caribbean. I have no idea which one, but one of those. The Da Vinci Code, unbelievable book. Didn't like the adaptation, but it made a lot of money. Ice Age, they've made a bunch of those. Very, very popular. Casino Royale, when they kind of rebooted the whole Bond thing with Daniel Craig. And Cars, which kind of plays into this one. The best picture that year, Bob, The Departed, soon to be on a podcast. And then a couple others, favorites of ours, a little bit off the radar. Didn't do great at the box office, but great movies. The Prestige, our guy Christopher Nolan. And then, Bob, one of your favorites, a little-known DiCaprio movie, Blood Diamond.
Oh, love Blood Diamond. Christopher Nolan calls this movie, Talladega Nights, a remote dropping movie. He absolutely loves this movie. So put another tick in Christopher Nolan's scorecard is just very, very steadily creeping up as my favorite director of all time with comments like that.
Remote drop-in. That's a good way to
remote
describe.
dropping. He says when you're, people have different phrases for this, but Christopher Nolan said when this movie comes on, the remote has left your hand and you're just watching this.
That's a great way. That's a great way to put it. I'll ask both of you this. The working title to this movie before they landed on Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, was called High, Wide, and Handsome. Have either of you two been called those three adjectives in the same sentence or at any time been referred to as high, wide, or handsome? Bob Beller, we'll start with you.
Every day. That's what my wife calls me when we wake up in the morning. She says, hi, high, wide, and handsome. Isn't that true for everyone? No, I've never been called those things at the same time. Sorry.
No. I've been called those things, not in a row, not in succession, but I've been called all three of those things. Let me ask you this, Mark. Better title than The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights, High, Wide, and Handsome.
It's a great one. Now that you say it, High, Wide, and Handsome is funnier.
It's awesome.
It's Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby. It's always hard to go back in time. Bob Beller, I saw you shaking your head. You love the Talladega Nights.
I think it's perfect. I wouldn't change the title.
Okay, it is a good debate. Speaking of guys who we love, Boz, Adam McKay, who directed this film. How about this? How about this run and then this pivot? Anchorman, Ricky Bobby, Step Brothers. He's apparently the only guy with the foresight or ingenuity to think that John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell would be great together, but they're dynamic. They're unbelievable. Puts those two together, does Anchorman 2, and then pivots into The Big Short, which is an unbelievable movie, a great pivot, but Step Brothers to Anchorman 2 to The Big Short is quite a change, but
I don't get it. I don't get how that works. I mean, this happened with not the Usual Suspects, but Rounders, I think. But yeah, how do they pivot to that? Big Short is slyly one of my favorite movies, one of my most rewatchable movies. I absolutely love that movie, but I can't find the thread that binds Step Brothers and the Big Short together. So it's very, very incredible. And he hasn't done much. If you go to his directing IMDb, it's not that long of a list for how long that he's been doing it. But yeah,
that's some really good films. Really good films.
Yeah.
I'll ask you this. So we're doing a comedy, right? And we talked about this, Bob, when we did The Hangover, right? We said, hey, what was the great decade of comedies? And you kind of went through the 80s, the 90s. This early 2000s, I think, is just a home run. We've mentioned a lot of those movies. We've left off things like Tommy Boy was earlier in the 90s, but The Hangover, Superbad, those kind of movies. But The Hangover, when we talked about it on that, it was kind of it. It ended. So, Bob, what happened to comedies? Did we just get too woke as a society and we can't make these anymore? What happened?
Bob Beller or me?
Bob Beller.
I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, I have a hard time coming up with a comedy in recent memory. I mean, in the last 10 years, maybe I can't think of that many comedies that I would put in my top 10. Yeah, I don't know. No. I don't know what happened to them, but
no. In the top 10, there's none. So if you really look at comedies since 2010, which is really what we're talking about here, 21 Jump Street and Ted in 2012, those are good. Those are funny. 21 Jump Street is funny. I'm sorry, Bridesmaids in 2011, that's way up there for me. That's an awesome, very, very good comedy. 2013, The Internship, that's near and dear to Mark and I's heart, but it's not a tremendous comedy. 2013 also gave us This Is the End, which is fun. There's very funny parts, not even in the class of these. Then you have Neighbors and Daddy's Home in 2015, and that is it. Like, there is nothing like this exists anymore. And I think there is a little bit of that political correctness, and we're not going to start a debate on that. I mean, there's jokes in this Talladega Night that we're not going to talk about. You just can't. I mean, they're meant to put in there to make people laugh, but I just don't, for better or worse, you just can't do those jokes anymore. And maybe we need to evolve. These writers need to evolve to make something as funny as these films without crossing over those lines. But it is nothing. The comedy you get now, which is Crazy Stupid Love, which is it's a great comedy. I love that movie. But those are the kind of comedies that you're getting now.
No, it's just different. Sadly, I wish we could go back to that time, but you're right. I mean, this movie, believe it or not, is 18 years old already. And there are parts of it that you watch and you kind of cringe a little bit. You just think to yourself, not a chance they would make that today. And the further and further you go back, you realize there's just no way to go there. But hopefully we can get there at some point. You guys ready to move into the categories and talk about
I've got some more miscellaneous here. I got some more miscellaneous. John C. Reilly, did you know he was in the pit crew in Days of Thunder? He was an actor in the pit crew of Days of Thunder. I thought that was cool. John C. Reilly's got an Oscar nomination. I didn't know that. This movie was pitched with 6 words: Will Ferrell as a NASCAR driver. And it made me think, so think of all the movies he's made. Blades of Glory, Will Ferrell as a figure skater. Semi-pro, Will Ferrell as a basketball player. Is there anything you couldn't put behind Will Ferrell and it'd be an incredible movie?
I'm watching.
That's the pitch for, Will Ferrell as a podcaster, Will Ferrell as a Samsung loving, overdone steak eating person. Yeah. I mean, Will Ferrell is that guy. Bobby Beller, I didn't get a smile out of you for that one at all. Okay. You're serious. The opening scene, it comes out and it says America, and I'm not stealing anything from you. It says America is all about speed, hot, nasty, badass speed. And they credit it to Eleanor Roosevelt. Well, I Googled this, obviously. It's not said by Eleanor Roosevelt, but did you know that a picture named America is all about speed, hot, nasty, badass speed, Eleanor Roosevelt, in the 11th annual Smithsonian photo contest? This is the name of the picture. Amazing. You didn't know that. Jean Girard, when he comes out in the race, obviously they filmed some of this in front of people. He really got booed. Nobody was told to boo him, but they just kind of knew that's the bad guy. And he got booed. And then to go to how these movies became so ingrained in our life, the first 400,000 PlayStation 3s were sold with this Blu-ray in it. So if you think of how these things got so popular and so quotable, I mean, I'm trying to think of movies that we've watched in the past 10 years. Yes, they're on demand. They're way more accessible than they were, but it's not an event to go kind of get your Blu-ray and put it in there. So that kind of adds to the legend of all this. Here's the other thing I'll say. The special effects were pretty damn good for 2008. I mean, they were awesome. I was staring at it really, really hard to find out where they had screwed up or where I could see. There are some you can see, but special effects I thought were really, really good for 2008.
06. Yeah, no, the racing scenes are really, really, really well done. And I guess that was a part of the negotiation. NASCAR initially was a little bit kind of taken aback, and they said they want to make fun, with them, not at them. And I think they did a good job of sort of honoring. But you're right, the racing scenes are really well done. Speaking of scenes, let's get into it. Bob Beller, you have won the toss. We're each going to pick our favorite 2 scenes. We'll start with what you have number 2. We'll kind of go around the horn. And like we said at the beginning, I had 12 scenes, the first 12 scenes that I thought I loved. But Bob Beller, if you were to start with your second favorite scene, and Ricky Bobby, where are you going?
My second favorite scene is actually the one that I laughed the loudest at. And it's basically Ricky Bobby sort of is at his low point in his career. He gets fired from the team. He gets a job at a pizza delivery store. And, as he walks out with the pizzas he's going to deliver, the other pizza delivery boys start mocking him. He gets in his car, puts it in reverse, backs up, and he backs right into a lady with a grocery cart. And he's like, oh God, what else can go wrong? You can just see the despair in his facial expression. And so the cops come, he gets a ticket, whatever. And, he's just dying to get out of there. So he thinks he's putting it in reverse, but puts it in forward, speeds off and hits the cop who just gave him a ticket. I just laughed. I couldn't stop laughing at that. It was so funny to me. But that's my second favorite scene.
It's funny. It's
really
funny you bring that up. We talked about why these comedies don't work anymore. It's because of maybe the political correctness. There's no political correctness in that, but it's just because it's Will Ferrell, right? Maybe we just don't have a comedic actor with the talent of him. Maybe it's not the political correctness because that has nothing to do with it. But man, his facial expressions are unbelievable. Unbelievable.
He's a unique guy. He's one of the few guys in life that just by looking at him, I laugh. If I just see Will Ferrell,
yes,
I start laughing. Jim Carrey had that effect on me. I would say Chris Farley, but they don't even have to do anything, and they make you laugh. Boz, where are you going? Your second favorite scene?
My second favorite scene is when we get introduced to Jean Girard. And Bob Beller, you put a little pressure on me. I've become somewhat famous for my impersonations. When I say famous, I use that term very, very loosely, but I don't have a great Jean Girard. I love the way he says Formula 1 in Monsieur Bobby. And when he gets, when he meets him and then it gets into the tussle and he's got him over, he's got Ricky Bobby's arm. And then they come up with the compromise. And he says, I will let you go if you say you like crepes. And then they go, him and John C. Reilly are, you know what? Buddy, they're just those really thin pancakes, man. I just had a whole mess of them this morning. He goes, those are called crepes? Oh, I love those things. Well, Ricky, how about you just say you like really, really thin pancakes? He goes, John C. Reilly, that's not a good compromise. That's a pretty good compromise. And he's like, should I say it? I should say it, right? John C. Reilly's like, nah, don't say it. Okay, break it, Pepe Le Pew. He just nails it. So he actually did it. And then he's like, I didn't say it though. Oh man. Yeah, it's a great scene.
It's a great introduction to the villain of the movie. I agree with you on that. An excellent scene. My number two, I love a comeback story, right? So basically you got to take him through the arc. He goes to the highest of highs and he gets down to the lowest of lows. And his dad, Reese, who we'll talk about, I'm sure, Reese Bobby, just a bang up job, comes and tries to help him back out and tries to teach him how to race again. You get the part with the cougar. He's the literal live cougar in the car that he has to, calm his blood pressure down and get in there with him. He teaches him how to drive blindfolded. He's just banging off in cars and eventually drives right through one of the neighbor's cars. And he's like, we should probably get out of here. And then
he goes, we should probably get out of here. Richard's going to be pissed.
That part's great. And then he ends with some cocaine that he quote unquote says he's strapped to the bottom of the car and he has to outrun the cops. I really like that it's like a training montage. I'm a sucker for that. We know that talking about when we did Rocky. But that would be my second favorite. On to the favorite scenes of the movie. Obviously, really tricky to do. But Bob Beller, you got the honor. What's your favorite scene of Ricky Bobby?
My favorite scene happens early in the movie. And the reason it's my favorite scene is because it kind of sets up the rest of the movie. It's basically Ricky Bobby as a middle school kid. He's in class. He's in its career day. And so he's waiting for his father to, come, but he knows he's not going to be there. He hasn't seen him in 10 years. And so to his surprise, he eventually does show up. And Reese says one of the funniest things. He says, your teachers want you to go slow. And she is wrong because it's the fastest who gets paid and it's the fastest who gets laid. And then immediately after that, he gets thrown out of the school, and as he's getting thrown out of the school, he's yelling, "This is egregious! It's egregious!" And then he even mentions one of the guys who's throwing him out was his cellmate. He says, "There will be payback from this." And then as he walks to the car, he looks back at Ricky and says, "Ricky, just remember, if you ain't first, you're last." And you see this facial expression on Ricky. It's like, it dawns on him, oh my God, this is my guiding principle through the rest of my life. And it just kind of sets up the rest of the movie. And it's just extremely funny as well. So that's my favorite.
It does tie it in nice. Bob Beller, pan the screen down so we can see the shirt you're wearing there. There it is. If you ain't first, you're last. That is great. It does give him this kind of his guiding principles for the rest of his life. Great scene. I agree with you. That career day, just a lot of quotes, a lot of funny stuff. Boz, your favorite scene?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to step over people, but it's and this is what makes a great funny movie, because that was his favorite scene in the movie. He didn't even mention the line that I laughed the hardest at, and that's pretty good. That's good comedy. He says, "Hey, Ricky, what's it been? 3 or 4 months?" Ricky goes, "It's been 10 years." Oh, better lay off the peyote.
That was a good
awesome. My favorite scene, bar none, is Ricky gets back on the track after he, thought he was paralyzed. He's going 26 miles an hour. He obviously, then he goes back in his underwear. Help me, Tom Cruise. And he comes back into the house, and the kids are playing Jenga with Cal and Carly. I think one of the kids says, "I love you, Cal. I love you, Dad." Cal's got his face duct taped to the family portrait over Bobby's. And Ricky Bobby's just like, "I was gone 3 hours." And then Carly goes, "Well, we've been having a lot of problems for a while." He goes, "No, I honestly did not know that." And then Cal says, "No more shake and bake. I'm the magic man. Don't get mad. You love it." He says, "Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I might have David Copperfield in my car just doing tricks. I might have little rabbits being dropped all over the track." And Ricky goes, "You're going to have little rabbits drop? Did you run this by NASCAR?" And just the disbelief. And then it finally ends with Cal, "You're going to be my best man." Carly's like, "He's not coming to the wedding." "Yeah, but you're fine. We're not going to get married for at least a couple weeks. We got plenty of time to figure this out." So I thought that was funny, because I think Will Ferrell does a pretty good job acting in there. Like, he just cannot wrap his head around it. And we'll probably talk about it later. It's not the same scene, but it's intermittent throughout, where Cal kind of calls Ricky, and he's like, "Hey, if I'm in the spa and I press the buttons back here, how do I get the bubbles on?" And then Ricky helps him. He's like, "Why am I helping you?" And it culminates with the last one, when Cal he thinks the house is haunted. And Cal says, "Hey, Ricky, if I'm watching the TV, but I want to turn the volume up on the stereo, how do I do that?" And Ricky goes, "Why would you want to listen to the stereo and the TV at the same time?" Cal says, "Because I like to party." Sorry, I stole a couple extra scenes there. So,
it's fine. Those are all great. And you're right. That part, he is just bewildered at what is happening. And it's hard to remember the first time you saw it, but you're probably, as an audience member, you're probably, "What? They're married now?" The whole thing was really good. I'll wrap this part up on the favorite scenes. Mine is when Ricky is in the hospital, and he thinks he's paralyzed, but he's not, right? And he's in the wheelchair, and Lucius comes in, Michael Clark Duncan. We haven't mentioned his name yet. And Cal are trying to talk to him that he's not paralyzed, and he grabs a knife and says, "I'm going to stick it in my leg." And they'll, "Don't do it, Ricky, don't do it." And he eventually does it. It's just the sheer horror and scream that he lets out. And then they're trying to dig it out of him, operate it out of him. It's complete nonsense for a few minutes, but I was just kind of hysterically laughing. And of a movie full of scenes, it was one that I picked. We've left a lot of good ones out there.
Well, and then the celebration when he realizes he's walking. "I'm cured. I'm better."
Very good. We could go on and on and on. Another topic we can go on and on and on about are quotes. Like I said, we've ripped off a few of them. I think we've still got a few left. We're going to go 3 rounds here. We're going to go 3 rounds on the quote draft. Bob Beller, we'll start with you. We'll give you the first selection right out of the gate. Give us a quote.
All right. My favorite quote is Ricky Bobby. It's from Ricky Bobby when he's being interviewed. And he says, "I'm the best there is, plain and simple. When I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with me or with my stuff. I'm just a big, hairy American winning machine. If you ain't first, you're last."
Encompasses. And look, we've all said that a time or two. I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence. If you're not first, you're last. So those have lived on, over time. Great quote. Boz, how about you?
Well, as we are amateur podcasters, we say this too much, but we've got to figure this out. Is it the best quote or the one you say the most? I'm going to go with the ones that find their way into the lexicon of when you're with your buddies and you're talking. And when him and Jean Girard are face to face, and you can tell they're just trying to make up stuff to say. We'll talk about this a little bit later. I would love to see the script for this movie. I would imagine it's 4 pages. and the rest is just like, hey guys, do whatever the hell you want. But when he's in Jean Girard's face and he's like, that just happened, when he gets to shake and bake, that just happened. I play for keeps. I love those.
That is a good one. I'll go with one. I don't say this in real life, but it made me laugh because I'd forgotten about it. But when he comes back for the one of those races, and he's got the big Fig Newton sticker on the driver window, and he goes, "This sticker's dangerous and convenient, but I do love Fig Newtons."
Oh, I love Fig Newtons.
That is a funny one on my part. Back to the top of the order, Bob Beller, give us another quote.
Well, my second favorite quote is when Cal Naughton's racing. And he goes, you shake it and then you bake it. Shake and bake. I mean, to me, I don't know, every time they say that probably 50 times, shake and bake throughout the course of the movie, but I laugh every time. I love it.
Well, that's what Ricky Bobby says. He goes, Cal, you could say it 1,000 times. I'll never get sick of it. I'll never get sick of it.
And we didn't get sick of it. Oz, where are you going?
Sick of it. Listen, if we wanted wussies, we'd have named them Dr. Quinn and Medicine Woman.
That's right. That's right. Was
Well,
that your next one, Oz?
That's my next one. That's my next one. That's my next one. Well, I don't care that the kids are named Walker and Texas Ranger. I love that if we wanted wussies, we call them Dr. Quinn and Medicine Woman. One thing that hit me when I was looking at those kids' names, so having them named Walker and Texas Ranger is funny, but the fact that they got to go to school and say their names Walker Bobby and Texas Ranger Bobby, that's pretty funny too.
It is good. I'll go with one that I had forgotten, but Cal, who I think delivers a bunch of them. So when you say psychosomatic, you mean like he could start a fire in his mind? That got me.
There's no way that was written, correct?
Yeah, I agree with you on the. You always hear about after the fact that, hey, Vince Vaughn ad-libbed all of his lines in Wedding Crashers or Old School or things like that. I'm sure Will Ferrell did the same. But you're right. You can even kind of tell it in some of it, like when he's face to face with Gerard. They're holding. I don't know how they don't laugh. I mean, I guess that's why they're actors. I guess that's why they do what they do. But it had to have been the outtakes must have been funny. You get some of them at the end. But all right, one more round. Bob Beller, final quote.
Well, it really is a couple quotes, but I'll just say the one in there that I like the best is they're at dinner and Chip has said something to the kids and the kids didn't like it and they're just firing, I'll come at you like a spider monkey and, those kind of things. But the little one, Texas Ranger goes, I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. To me, that's kind of near and dear to my heart because I'm a big Mountain Dew fan.
Yes.
Not only do we have two Bobs, we have two people. I don't know if anybody loves Mountain Dew more than either of you two. I thought Mountain Dew was more prominently displayed in the movie. It really isn't. It's just kind of that one line, but you guys do love the Dew.
It's Diet Dew. So let's not let the crowd think we're complete animals and barbarians slamming Mountain Dew here. It is Diet Dew. It is
Diet Dew. Boz, your final quote.
Yeah, I'm going to break all the rules. I'm just going to list all the ones I like. There's no, I mean, if I leave here and say Dr. Quinn and Medicine Woman is my favorite quote of this movie. So I'm just going to get, look, Mark, with all due respect, it's with all due respect. It's in the Geneva Convention. I'm just going to get some out of here. He says, as the late great Colonel Sanders said, I'm too drunk to taste this chicken. When he, at the end, had to be ad-libbed. He says, it's Magic Man. It's not Shake and Bake. It's Magic Man and El Diablo. And Cal is like mesmerized. He's like, what is that? He's like, it's Spanish for a fighting chicken. And Cal's, with the claw. I love that. The kids, when Reese comes in, the kids look at Reese. He says, and the kids go, what are you looking at, Popeye? And Reese just goes, you shut up, pot liquor. I'll stick you in a microwave. There's no way that's written, correct? There's no way they're in the writing room and you say, shut up, pot liquor, or I'll stick you in the microwave. I hope they do that. And then we've already talked about this one, the Riri Fiend pancakes. If you've ever had a crepe, there's no chance you're doing and eating those without saying really thin pancakes. And then those kids running around saying, anarchy, I don't know what it means, but I love it.
You're right. I think, look, we've nailed a lot of quotes. Let's move on. I think we've said there'll be more to come. I would think.
I'll play for keeps.
All right, as we've said a few times, the movie's been around for 18 years. It's hard to believe when you see it. I think it holds up really well, and that's kind of the next category. Let me just throw one at you guys here. The comedic duo of Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly holds up for me. Boz, is there any who's a comedic duo now? I mean, I'm trying to think of other good ones. I mean, you had Vince Vaughn and Luke Wilson, their Owen Wilson for a little while that were pretty funny. But do you have any that kind of jump to mind?
Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn, Farley and Spade, and then it just starts to get, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler are pretty good, but that's not really movies. They didn't make a ton of movies together. We mentioned Jonah Hill and Seth Rogen, that kind of crew, and then you get way back in the day and Cheech and Chong and John Candy and Steve Martin and Belushi and Aykroyd and those. But one thing that was really surprising, unless I just totally whiffed, this duo is only Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, and Sherlock Holmes, right? That's it, right?
Yeah. It appears to be a big miss. Yeah.
Oh
it's a miss by somebody. Greenlight the next project with these two guys, and we're all going to see it. So that held up for me well. And one more. How about a young Amy Adams? I forgot she was in this, but she just kind of pops up out of nowhere, kind of plays prominently at the end of it. But good seeing her. She goes on to a lot of amazing things in her career. Bob Beller, what holds up for you after almost 20 years?
For me, it's racing movies. I every movie that has a racing theme, they just recently came out with Gran Turismo. Probably not a big box office smash, but I love every racing movie that comes out. For me, that's what holds up.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you consider Fast and Furious racing movies? Because I love Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I mean, they're. I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right.
I like those.
Boz, what holds up for you?
Not liking the French. I love that. Yeah, I don't know why I don't like the French, but that holds up well. I'm not a big fan of the French. I think they're weak. I don't know why I think they're weak. I think I've been told that they're weak. So I don't like the French. That holds up well. I love what holds up well and more kind of nostalgic than anything is when he calls him and says, "Hey, go to channel 42." That doesn't work anymore. There's no, I don't even know what channels are anymore. I look at my YouTube TV and you know how it shuffles. I watch 3 channels. I think that's the way it was back then, but I don't know. Going to a channel 42. Crepes and Fig Newtons hold up amazing. Christopher Nolan saying this is an awesome movie is great. Here's one. I know I brought out 7 Habits of Highly Effective People to rave reviews. I mean, people just loved it. People got motivated and inspired. Well, let me bring another one. My mentor, my managing partner, who's been very influential in my life, one of his main things is he talks about, feelings don't create actions. It's actually the other way around. Actions create feelings. If you wait to feel like you're going to work out, you'll work out sometimes, but you're not going to work all the time. But every time you get in there into the gym and you start doing the action of working out, then you'll feel like working out. That's Amy Adams. Amy Adams dropping out. Ricky Bobby is not a thinker. He's a driver. Just go out there and do it. So you're welcome. I'm sure all of your sales targets will be hit and raised, and all your bonus checks will be bigger than they ever have been. Kids being rehabilitated. I don't know if I'm getting old. I don't like disrespectful kids. The kids being disrespectful, maybe that's my against the grain. Hey, kids, shut up. Just be good kids. And they got rehabilitated. That always holds up. Amy Adams holds up. The song "Faithfully" by Journey. Ain't no better song out there. I mean, that's an incredible song. Dads making kids dig a hole to keep busy. Reese told us, what should we go down do now? He's got a beer, so go dig a hole. It reminds me, our dad always said that our grandfather, when he was a kid, would tell him to go dig a hole. And how big was the hole, Mark?
I don't remember.
Oh, I thought you would remember,
no,
man. We should have
6
by 6 by 6. Hey, go dig a hole 6 by 6 by 6. What do I do after I dig it? Fill it back in. I hope that story's true. Grandpa came over on a boat from Poland, just a hard-nosed dude, just make my dad dig a hole 6 by 6 by 6 and fill it in. That would hold up very, very well. That's it. That's all I got.
Nice job. Well, I'm going to have to add a Cubby section, I guess, Bob, to the pod. You seem to enjoy that. Let's move on to questions. I have one question about this movie. What is it with Will Ferrell and streaking? He seems to really enjoy it. He pulls it off in this movie. He's done it in some others. And why is he streaking, Bob? He is literally a man on fire. He asked Tom Cruise for help. He asked Allah. He asked everybody for help. So I've got to ask you, Bob, who would you want? What man on fire would you want driving the getaway car? John Creasy or Ricky Bobby?
Is there Colombian Bam Bam strapped to the bottom of it or not?
Of course, of course.
Well, it's still John Creasy then. I mean, Creasy, yeah, it's still John Creasy. It's still John Creasy for sure.
So
nice
this is our Kim. So the move. So Man on Fire, 10-0, just for the record.
10-0,
undefeated,
just for the record. Yeah, Bob Beller's keeping track of that. So yes, 10-0.
He is. Bob Beller, what questions do you have about the movie? It's your favorite.
Actually. Yeah, okay. I have a couple. The scene where Ricky Bobby gets his chance to be a driver. I don't know if you remember this, but the driver goes and he ends up having lunch. He goes out.
That's a great scene.
They say, "Hey, we need somebody to drive." You know, they get Ricky Bobby all in his fire suit, his helmet, everything like that. Him and Cal have a little discussion. Probably takes, almost a minute. And Ricky Bobby goes on to win or take third place in that race. There is no way that can happen. So that to me was a little far-fetched. The other one was, how does Cal even get a chance to be a race car driver? I mean, Ricky, okay, he's the one who first steps up, but just because he's the buddy of Ricky Bobby, he gets to be a race car driver? That to me was a little bit out there. The other one was
you're not buying it. You're telling me you're not buying it.
Not buying it. The other one I'm not buying is Ricky Bobby actually wins a race driving backwards. And so I'm like, yeah, no, that can't happen. And little tidbit here, the guy he beat in that race is a real NASCAR driver, Brad Keselowski. So he was, and a lot of the NASCAR drivers were really excited when they were making this movie. They asked a bunch of them. Some of them couldn't be on there because their sponsors didn't think it was a good idea. But he was one of the ones who made it on there. And then the last question I have is that nobody intentionally goes from Formula One to NASCAR. It's sort of like a downgrade, when it comes to that. But Gene Gerard decides, he needs to find a race car driver who can beat him. So I guess that's why he did it. But I found that hard to believe. Those were my questions.
Those are good. Well, really dropping some knowledge on it. Did you know, Bob, that race car driver at the beginning of the movie that Ricky Bobby replaces is the director of the movie? It's Adam McKay. Mm-hmm. Has a little cameo in the movie. You're right. I didn't understand how he won it. They were sitting there in the pit for a good 20 minutes, just kind of hanging out. Boz, you are filled with questions, so lay a few on us.
Well, did you know why? Did you know what Jean Girard and his partner wanted to do once they got beat? Do you remember what they're going to go do, Bobby Beller?
They were going to go, I do remember, I can't remember the exact quote, but they were going to go do something on some vineyard or something like that. I can't remember the quote, but it's something kind of ridiculous.
We wish to tame Komodo dragons in Sri Lanka and teach them to perform Hamlet.
Yes.
And Ricky Bobby goes, "That's dumb." Yeah, that's why he needed it, and that's why he needed it. And he also let Jean Girard know that Highlander won an Academy Award for Best Movie Ever, which I looked up. That doesn't exist. If it was, we would have known about that. It's a great point. I love that driver, and he's like, "Hey, you guys should try this chicken sandwich. It's amazing." None of Ricky Bobby's crew just wallops Jean Girard as he has him held down on the pool table. I mean, I've famously have told you guys I've been in 2 fights my entire life. Abel Morales punched me. I punched Paul Lasky. Shout out to those 2 guys. I'm sure they're doing great with their lives right now. So I'm not a fighter, but if I think my meal ticket, Ricky Bobby is I mean, nobody steps in. So that's a question. So here's another question. Why can't you go as fast in reverse than forward? Bob, does the engine not work the same way going backwards or forwards?
Well, there's only one reverse gear. I mean, you have to go through the gears to go faster.
So if you designed a car that went like first gear through fifth gear in reverse, you could do it.
Theoretically, yes. Or you had an electric car, something else.
Okay, well, I've got, in Bob's big questions, I've got one for you on that. I kind of set you up. I knew the answer for this. I'm going to leave my biggest question to my against the grain. But in his prayer, he hasn't made $21.2 million in his life. He's made $21.2 million this year, and he loses his sponsorship, and he has to deliver pizza the next day. I saw the house. So that house has got to be what, in North Carolina? That's what is that, a $2 million house? I mean, it wasn't like a $50 million house. He's got a Hummer. He's got some Camaros. He's got that bass boat out there. That's a redneck's thing to do, man. I got a buddy who's got some money in his pocket now. And he says, yeah, as a redneck, and he's a redneck. And he says, the first thing you do when you're a redneck and you have money is you buy a bass boat. That's what you do. That's what you do when you have it. So he has no money. That's a question. And here's a good question too. So that, in one of the cool montages, it's Paint It Black, but a French woman singing it, which is a famous Rolling Stones song. It's an awesome song, but there's French lyrics. Here's my question. When artists redo a song in their own language, do they make it rhyme in their own language? Now, that's not Paint It Black. That's actually a song called Marie Dueur and Marie Couleur. So it's not Paint It Black. But if a Latino artist redid Paint It Black, would they do it to rhyme in Spanish? Or would they sing the song and it just not rhyme in Spanish? Mark, tell me the answer.
We're going to leave that unanswerable. I have no idea. I have no idea. I have to send that away to ChatGPT.
Like they don't say. I know our as Ricky Bobby says, our Spanish, our friends to the south. I don't think they sing Merry Christmas, or they don't sing Jingle Bells. They sing Feliz Navidad. But if they translated Jingle Bells, would they make it rhyme? Bob Beller, I need an answer. Do they make it rhyme in their native tongue?
Bob, you go down roads that I just can't follow. So
okay.
I can't answer that either. I have no idea.
It's unanswerable.
Yeah.
All right. I've got one more big question, but I'll save it for my against the grain. Almost a Bob's big beef, but against the grain.
Oh boy, a Bob's big beef. All right, let's rip through a couple of quick categories. Scene stealer. Who wins the Matthew McConaughey Award for the best scene steal of the movie? I'm going to give it to Bob's. He kind of didn't like him. I'm going Walker, Texas Ranger. I wanted him on screen. I thought every time they were on there, they had some bang up lines and really kind of made me laugh. Bob Beller?
Yeah, I had the same. I loved when they were in there. They were obnoxious, said exactly what they shouldn't say. And, I thought they did a good job. They were the scene stealers. 2
for Walker, Texas Ranger. Bobby, where are you going?
I didn't say I didn't like their performance. I don't like shitty kids. I don't like terrible kids. That kind of annoys me. I don't like fast drivers either. I had to drive from Birmingham to Atlanta today, and it's raining. And just people, why do we have to go so fast? Let's just get there safe. But I think the scene stealer is the original NASCAR driver of the malt liquor. Oh darn it! What was it? What type of malt liquor was it? Clown
Laughing
something.
Clown malt liquor.
Laughing clown malt liquor. He just gets out, guys. It's fine. We're not going to win anyway. And he goes have a chicken sandwich. I like that guy. That guy's funny.
That guy wins, kind of off the grain. All right. Yeah. Best parent, worst parent. I'll get it started off. Worst. How about we go with worst? How about Reese Bobby? I think he probably cleaned up on just being a bad parent. Funny, but probably not a great parent. Bob Beller, who's your worst parent?
Yeah, I went with Reese as well. I mean, when he hasn't seen his kid in 10 years, and then he sees him during career day, and then his goodbye speech is basically, I'll see you when you grow up. I mean, that's not a great parent right there.
Not great. Boz, you going a different direction, or we got a clean sweep?
Yeah, no, I'm going in a different direction. Sometimes I think we're watching a different movie. I mean, he actually helped his son. Now, he's not perfect, but you know what? Neither am I as a dad. Yes, he didn't show up for 10 years, and yes, he's got a drinking problem, but he actually helped him through one of his lowest times in his life. I mean, that's what parents are supposed to do. I wouldn't call him the best parent, but he's definitely not the worst. The worst is Carly. She's completely oblivious. She doesn't do anything. I can't imagine her ever saying anything of any value or any worth to those kids. Worst parent by far is Carly.
She was not great. Bob Beller, the best parent of Ricky Bobby. Who you got?
I'm giving it to Lucy Bobby. She basically rehabilitated the kids. She's always there for Ricky. I couldn't find anybody else that would be the best parent.
She was good. Jane Lynch, nice performance there. Boz?
Yeah, I don't want to go funny with this one. I don't mess around with parenting. No funny business around parenting. Jane Lynch got those things back in order, got those little rascals back in order, and she's the glue of that family. Best parent.
Let's give Lucy Bobby a clean sweep. I was leaning towards Lucius. He was a good guy, very loyal, kind of good dude. But Lucy Bobby kind of cleaned it up at the end. Walker and Texas Ranger, if you keep watching beyond the bloopers, they're really refined by the end of it. So she does a nice job. The eBay award, the item from the movie, if you saw it on eBay that you would bid money to try to get. The cars are all ineligible. All of the cars will make those ineligible. Bob Beller, if you saw something, what would it be?
It's kind of a toss-up between two, but since you gave me the first pick, it's the family portrait with Cal's face facing over Ricky Bobby's face. That one I would have to have. That would be amazing.
I agree. Great. Boz is a sucker for portraits, so that may be where he was going. I did want to also mention on this eBay, Bob, I would buy something for you, Boz, my brother, and I would have it be on your coffee table. It would be the Mike Honcho spread in Playgirl magazine that I would definitely spend a lot of money on and put it on your coffee table. But Boz, what would it be if you saw it on eBay?
He spread his butt cheeks. I spread my butt cheeks. That's dang. I'm really disappointed. I might be slipping a little. Bob Beller, great job. It would go right next to my Hangover one. I would do that. And a coffee table book of the spread of Mike Concho is just incredible. I was thinking not the car, but the hood. You can get those hoods, either the Wonder Bread hood or the Cougar hood. I was thinking that could be pretty cool, but I will disqualify myself for being unoriginal or not as original and funny as you guys. Great job.
Well, Bob, available at Walmart, the Jackhawk 9000. You can go pick one of those up.
More to come.
Halloween costume. This one's probably pretty easy. Bob Beller will give you the honor. What Halloween costume could you show up and people would immediately know if that's from Ricky Bobby?
Yeah, I think either of the driving suits, either Ricky Bobby or Cal Naughton Jr., or even Jean Girard, his. Those were, to me, the obvious ones. I couldn't think of a better one. I'm not that creative. So
yeah, just go with the Wonder Bread racing uniform. Boz, did you go in a different direction?
Well, it's actually not funny, but as some of our listeners know, I've got a wrist issue that could cost me some golf this year. But I know that I think I'm going to have the same exact surgery that I had on my left wrist. I know it happened in 2008 because I went as Ricky Bobby when I had my cast on my hand. So I wasn't a great one. I just put a Wonder Bread hat on and had my left arm in a cast. So, but yeah, not too many original ones that I was.
Very nice. Against the grain. Any hot takes or hot opinions from the movie? Bob Beller, we'll start with you. Do you have one?
I didn't have any against the grains. I kind of blanked on that category. So I'll let you guys take these.
No worry. It's a comedy. Sometimes you don't have it. Boz?
Oh, this is obvious. Cal Naughton, worst best friend of all time. I mean, with friends like this, what does the adage go? With friends like this, who needs enemies? Yes, he does come back, foreshadowing of the Rudy Sack Award. But can you imagine that you go through what Ricky Bobby goes through, and your best friend marries your wife immediately? And then just gets a little Geppetto. I know Bob loves that reference of just doing Carly's bidding, doing whatever Carly says, taking Carly's side against his best friend. Meanwhile, to Bob Beller's point, he became a NASCAR driver after Ricky Bobby vouched for him. He owes everything to him. And he marries his wife after he's in his lowest time. Worst best friend of all time. Cal Naughton.
Yeah, it's a tough look for him. It kind of leads right in to Bob's big question. It's time.
Yes.
Now I know we love the rapid fire, bounce it at us. I'll turn it over to you. Bob Beller,
Yes.
be ready. He's come quick.
He's come quick. Okay. All right, Bob Beller. Your kids are 10 years old. They invite you to Career Day. How would you describe your career at Career Day? Go.
I'm a rocket scientist.
Take that.
Okay, got it. Actually, pretty funny on this. I was at baseball practice, and one of the other coaches asked me what I do for a living, and Sam, my son, was warming up next to me, and he says, "My dad pushes buttons and plays golf." That's what he said. That's what, in his 9-year-old eyes, that's what his dad does.
That's a great job.
It was the proudest moment that I've ever had in my entire life. All right, Mark, I do know the world speed record for a car in reverse. We'll do Price is Right style, closest without going over. Mark, fastest car, reverse speed.
Wow. This is like a normal car? Are we talking like a stock
Obviously,
car?
yeah, it's a Toyota Corolla. Yeah, it's a car. It's actually a Rimac Nevera. Does that help you? Does that help you answer the question?
Well, I didn't know if it was like a NASCAR. I would go 50 miles an hour.
25.
Bob Beller.
25 miles an hour.
Are we serious? 171 miles an hour.
Never would have guessed it.
I think I've gone faster than 25 miles an hour in reverse, Bob. And Bob, what about your strategy? He goes 50, go 51. You know it. It's got to be more than 50. Go 51 and you win the game. You guys are terrible. All right. Bob Beller, boxers, briefs, or boxer briefs?
Boxer briefs.
Mark?
Same.
Seems to be the dominant choice out there. I think that's what everybody's wearing nowadays. They're definitely not wearing the tidy white. Tidy whities were not even an
Even
option.
a choice. No.
Not even a choice.
Even tidy. So
yeah. Mark, if you're a NASCAR driver, who is your dream sponsor?
Whew, that's a great. It got to be Budweiser. I'm driving NASCAR.
Okay, wow, Budweiser. I can't remember the last time I've seen you drink a Budweiser, but okay. Bob Beller, dream NASCAR sponsor.
I'm going Ferrari because I'd always wanted to have a Ferrari. I'm sure that would be part of the package.
So you would be driving like a Ford stock car, and that's sponsored by Ferrari? Is that what we're talking about? Okay.
That's what we're talking about, yes.
Okay, good.
You didn't say it had to make sense.
Okay, that's fine. Well, this has to make sense. Bob Beller, if you do a spread and play girl, and you did not want to be called Bob Beller, what would be your, for lack of a better term, your porn name? Not Mike Concho.
Yeah, you got me on that one. I don't know. Big Bobby? I don't know.
Mark, jeez. Mark, are you laughing? Mark, are you laughing the same reason I'm laughing on this?
I'll be the Viking Slayer. How about that? That'll be my name.
That's rude.
Ooh, the Viking Slayer. All right, Bob Beller. How much money would I have to give you to show up in a nationally published magazine in just tidy whities today? No time to get in shape. Nothing crazy. You're not spreading your butt cheeks like Mike Concho. Just you in tidy whities, and that's it. How much money do I have to give you to do that?
I'm thinking $5 million. I'd do it.
You're telling me that if I gave you $1 million, you wouldn't do it?
I'd seriously consider it for $1 million.
Well, if I gave you
I know I'd do it for
$500,000, you wouldn't do it for $500,000.
First number that came to mind was $5 million, Bob. Everybody's got their price. Mine's $5 million.
Mark, how much money? I mean, if I had it in cash, a brick of cash, how much money? Tastefully done.
It wouldn't take much. I mean, I'll do it.
All right. And Bob Beller, last question. In the spirit of Cal Naughton Jr., who would be the first friend that would marry your wife when you were in a bad situation?
Without a doubt, it's George.
Jordan Factor, as you guys know, was our guest for The Usual Suspects. He has that kind of vibe. I agree. Mark, the first friend that would marry your wife after you were down and out.
Yeah, let's just leave it on that one. I don't want to offend anybody else. We all laughed at it, so it's funny, and he'll love that.
Okay, that's it. I don't know who won, but I know who lost. Bob Beller, you lost.
Well, I'll take that money. That was. We're leaving on a high note, right? Which pivots nicely right into the Rudy Sack Award.
Yeah.
What part of this movie, Bob Beller, gave you goosebumps, gave you the feel, got you emotional? What was it?
I mean, for me, it was when Ricky's dad comes back and kind of helps him through his troubles. You know, he's not there for him his whole life, but, you know, he gets a call from Lucy Bobby. He comes back, helps him out, overcomes his fear of driving again. That was it for me.
Very good. Probably helped give Boz his award for not the worst parent. Was probably that scene right there. Boz, where are you going? Rudy Sack Award.
It's when that backstabbing Cal Naughton Jr. comes around and he says, "Slingshot engage." When he comes back, I literally was like, "Yes, let's go. That was my Rudy Sack Award.
Yeah, same. I think we're talking about the same one. TNT starts playing. Shake and Bake is back. I totally agree. That was excellent. Did the movie need a different ending? It's kind of the race thing is a little anticlimactic. They run. I get it's funny. I could have used a little bit better. Why not just play the race out, have him beat Gerard? But do either one of you guys have a thought on the movie needing kind of a different or more impactful ending with the race?
No, it should have slingshot engaged on the very back straightaway and he wins. I don't know. I guess they had to end on the track kissing. But yeah, the slingshot very last by a hair. Maybe there's like a piece of like Lucky Charms, some Colombian Bam Bam on the fender that's what gets it to a photo finish. Something. I think there could have been something way better than that.
Bob Beller, any comment on different endings?
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the racing at the end to, the running to the finish line. And also, but what it did, it allowed Cal to finally win a race, which I kind of understand why they wanted to do that. But I would have liked it had Cal never won a race. He's always behind Ricky Bobby.
He's a backstabber. The backstabber.
Yeah. And did you guys know, there's a little fact here that scene actually played out in a real NASCAR race. Carl Edwards crashed on the last race of one of the NASCAR races, and he jogs over the finish line, and he gets a standing ovation.
I did not know that. Bob Beller, a lot of racing knowledge. This is coming out of nowhere. All right, finishing up. Hall of Fame plaques. I'll run through the cast. The Bobs have a couple other opportunities. So we've talked about Will Ferrell a bunch. He is unbelievable in this movie, but to me, I say no. To me, it's Ron Burgundy. That's his face in that red blazer. Anybody disagree? I think that's what he goes in as. John C. Reilly is an interesting. We didn't touch much on his IMDb. You mentioned he was nominated for an Academy Award, Boz, I think for what, Chicago? He's in he's Happy Jack in Gangs of New York. I think he's Dale from Step Brothers. When I think of John C. Reilly, I think of him as Dale, and that would be my Hall of Fame plaque for him. But Boz, would you disagree?
No, it's Dale. I think you're right. Step Brothers is this movie is back to back with Step Brothers on purpose on our list. I'll be interested to do that rewatch. What I think is funnier because we have Step Brothers ahead of Talladega Nights right now, which I think is right. Step Brothers is incredible.
He's really good.
He's good in that movie.
All right, John C. Reilly is Dale. Sacha Baron Cohen, I say no. I immediately went to Borat. But Boz, you had a different opinion as to Ali G. But do you think that's it, or is it Borat?
Well, I would probably Borat is the correct answer nowadays. But when I see him with the do-rag and those glasses and Ali G. And Ali G was obviously Ali G. The show spawned Borat, so I kind of give a nod to Ali G. as the one who invented that. So that's why I see with Sacha Baron Cohen. But I think the correct answer is Borat.
Agree there. Gary Cole, who was Reese Bobby, was unbelievable in it. Almost made me change my mind, but to me, he will always be Bill from Office Space. Bob Beller, did you see Office Space? It's kind of right up your alley. Dark, dry, sarcastic humor.
Yeah, I probably have seen it a while ago and forgotten it, but I didn't have any of the actors going in the Hall of Fame for this movie, but I did have a couple entries that were kind of down Boz's,
Very good. Okay, yeah, I would agree. We don't have any yet, and I think Gary Cole is Bill from Office Space. And then the last one I'll talk about in the cast, Jane Lynch, Lucy Bobby, but she is Sue Sylvester from Glee, right? That was her unbelievable role that she will go in. So a movie that we all love, a top 10 comedy, not one Hall of Fame plaque from the cast, which is kind of amazing. Bob Beller, it sounds like you have a couple nominees for Hall of Fame plaques. We'll go to you first.
I think Laughing Clown Malt Liquor, by far, this, that goes into the Hall of Fame as a Talladega Nights thing. It did actually make an appearance in Anchorman 2. Someone was drinking a Laughing Clown Malt Liquor.
Oh, awesome.
Movie, yeah?
Awesome.
So at least it wasn't, you had some options there. And then
but it's not Hall of Fame plaque for malt liquor, period, correct? It's just the Laughing Clown malt.
No, I think you could go malt liquor. Do you have a better malt liquor than Laughing Clown Malt Liquor?
Yeah, I mean, I think Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, any South Central LA gang movie where they're walking around with 40s of Old E malt liquors, probably better than this. But I could be swayed. I could be persuaded.
Okay, well, it's you asked me, so it doesn't matter what you say. So for me, it goes in for the movie that has the best kids' names. Walker and Texas Ranger, love the names. I think I can't think of another movie that had better kids' names.
Those are good kids'
right.
names.
You're probably right. I like Walker and Texas Ranger. Good one there. Any others?
That was it for me.
Good additions. I like it, Bob. We haven't had anybody do that before. Boz, what Hall of Fame plaques you got?
All right. Driver's license photos. I think it's a 2-horse race. It's McLovin and this one where he's doing this. Mark, what's better, McLovin?
McLovin's more iconic. So I say
McLovin. McLovin is more iconic. Okay. All right. You guys got to pay attention closely here because I'm going to list off a couple things. So what goes in as the Hall of Fame plaque for the best slang for cocaine? So famously in this movie, it's Colombian Bam Bam, which is awesome. I've never heard it before. It's only said here. So again, slang terms for cocaine: Colombian Bam Bam, yayo, coke, blow, bump, dust, booger sugar, my favorite, nose candy, tootskis, or God's way of telling you have too much money. Bob Beller, best slang for cocaine.
I like Colombian Bam Bam. Of all the ones you listed, that was my favorite.
Okay. Mark, best slang. What's Hall of Fame plaque for best slang for cocaine?
I think I'm just a traditionalist. I'm just going blow.
Just blow. Okay.
Just blow.
Okay. I enjoy booger sugar. I think that's funny. The best grace scene in a movie. Here are your nominees. You've got Ricky Bobby's, which we already have talked about. You've got Meet the Parents, when De Niro asked Stiller to do an "Oh Sweet Lord of Host, thank you for the smorgasbord day by day. And then you've got Vacation. Aunt Bethany is asked to give grace, and she says, "Oh, she passed away 30 years ago. No, they want you to say grace." And then she says the Pledge of Allegiance, and Eddie stands up with it. So those are your 3 nominees. Best grace said in a movie. Bob Beller, which one is the best grace?
Clearly Talladega Nights. I mean, Baby Jesus, you can't beat that.
Yeah, I agree. Ricky Bobby wins that one in a landslide.
I think so. Comedic duos, we already talked about this. Is this the Hall of Fame for Riggle? Probably not, but Riggle was awesome. I thought I should have been my Steam Stealer in there, but I like that NASCAR driver. And the last one, guys, in the spirit of this sticker is dangerous and inconvenient, but boy, do I love Fig Newtons. Hall of Fame plaque for snacks that you think are good for you, but are not even close to good for you. Fig Newtons, I think, is way up there. Whenever I eat a Fig Newton, I think this is a healthy snack. This is helping me live longer. Any other snacks that you think are healthy but are not?
Probably chocolate covered something, like a chocolate covered almond.
Does anybody think chocolate covered something is good for you? Anybody?
The same people that think a Fig Newton is somehow healthy for you.
Don't you think anything? Don't you think of Fig Newton? You're like, that's not like an Oreo. I mean, they're sold right next to Oreos and Chips Ahoy. They're not that. I mean, it's a dang fig.
It's in the candy aisle. To the
It's in the
candy.
candy aisle, exactly. Yeah. So, but, I always think I'm doing good. I didn't eat a Fig Newton, although I go for the strawberry fill. The actual Fig Newton, that Hannibal Lecter is the only guy that eats those. I mean, if you eat those, you got some serious issues. That's it. I was trying to find a way to shoehorn Dr. Lane's bath salts, his first sponsor for menopause and spider bites. I tried to find a way in there, but I couldn't do it.
Could not shoehorn that in there. The final award for this opus, the MVP of the movie. A lot of good choices. Bob Beller, it's your movie. Who's the MVP?
I mean, for me, it's Ricky Bobby. I mean, he is clearly the star of the movie. There's a great supporting cast, but he is the MVP.
Ricky Bobby. Boz?
Not Chip, the only one with a sensible head on his shoulders that realizes that kids can't do this. That realized when his grandsons say, "Hey, what have you been doing?" He says, "I've just been throwing Grandpa Chip's war medals off a bridge." No, Ricky Bobby, or Bob Beller. Bob Beller is the MVP of this movie.
He could be a lot of racing knowledge. I pivoted a little bit, went with the director, Adam McKay. Apparently the only guy in the universe with the foresight to put those two guys together. He gave us Ricky Bobby, he gave us Step Brothers, and he gave us The Big Short. And he was the race car driver in the movie. So shout out to Adam McKay. Bob Beller, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to everybody for listening. If you like this nonsense, please follow us, our podcast, on Spotify or Apple. Give us a follow. You can rate the show in the About tab on Spotify. Bob's, next week, we're headed to Southeast Arizona. A little trip over to the OK Corral, a little Western called Tombstone. And joining us, none other than Jono Ringo, not to be confused with Johnny Ringo. Any first thoughts on Tombstone?
Oh, I cannot wait to rewatch this one. I have seen this in the past couple years, actually. As good as ever, as good as ever. And a tremendous discussion on Hall of Fame plaque for Val Kilmer. Iceman v. Doc Hollywood.
Gonna be a good one.
Sorry.
Fellas, thanks for joining us. This has been the Pozcast.
See you, boys.